some sort of bonus is incoming at middleweight. We have a big-time marquee matchup on the main card between Alex Pereira taking on the former middleweight champ with M1 Global in Bruno Silva, a guy who's no stranger to performance bonuses. Last time out, he gets hit a couple times there by Jordan Wright and some big-time kicks to the body and the head. He withstands the pressure, and he lands a crazy combination following him across the cage. His time before that, Andrew Sanchez takes him down 7 times. In the third round, he says, we're not doing this anymore. I'm putting you out, pal, and sending you outside of the UFC. So for Bruno Silva, it's been an amazing run. He hasn't lost a fight in years, and he took a few years to compete inside the UFC due to a USADA suspension for Boldenone, but he's cleared, he's past that, and he's winning in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And for Alex Pereira, what more can I say? I mean, Joe Rogan sung his praises on the JRE experience. Then he ends up in the UFC. Joe's calling his fight. He's singing his praises.
Wouldn't the JRE experience be the Joe Rogan experience?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to the show.
No, E stands for experience, I believe.
We don't have to pick on that. I'm fired up about this fight, Matt. Don't get hung up on meaningless details. But what we do know is for Alex, this guy was the first ever simultaneous multi-weight champion with Glory Kickboxing. Middleweight champ, interim light heavyweight champ, light heavyweight champ. We don't have to talk about the part where he lost his belt.
Close fight, though, so.
A couple months before he made his UFC debut. But what we can talk about is the fact that he came into his fight against Andreas Michailidis with a ton of hype. It was a featured prelim to a pay-per-view. Some surprised that it wasn't on the main card. And in that, Michailidis is a guy with some kickboxing acumen in his back pocket, but he is known for his grappling. And in the first round, 3 of 7 on his takedown attempts. He won that first round handily. He was like, butter on a roll in that first round. He really did have a great job with his grappling. Then the commentary team kind of focuses on it. There's a big amount of swelling on Michailidis' left eye as he comes into the second round. Pereira throws a head kick out there, it's blocked, and then he goes jumping switch knee and knocks him out cold. So a giant win for Pereira, a performance bonus for him too his last time out. But for both of these guys, Silva actually has some grappling and jiu-jitsu in his back pocket. But again, we talk about bread getting buttered. It's also with his striking. These two guys with some of the biggest power in this division. I love this matchup.
When Seth Petrozelli fought Kimbo Slice, it produced one of the greatest sound bites of all time from Dana White, because allegedly Seth Petrozelli was offered money not to take Kimbo Slice down. And you know what Dana White said in response to that? That's illegal. Now, I'm here to offer a very similar type of rule set for this matchup. I think the first person who shoots for a takedown should be immediately cut for the UFC. I think this is as close to a pure kickboxing fight as we've ever gotten in the UFC. And you're right, Bruno Silva is probably the better grappler out of these guys, but I do not expect him to shoot for a takedown at all in this matchup. And if he does shoot for a takedown, it's because he got cracked by a huge shot in the feet, and he's probably well on his way out of the fight. I really do expect this to just be a striking battle between these two guys, and I'm going to offer maybe a hot take, maybe not really, because Bruno Silva does have 20 knockouts in MMA, but I do think Silva's oddly the more dangerous guy, just strike for strike in this matchup, especially on the feet, because with Pereira, he does set up his knockout strikes way better than Bruno Silva, and I'm not saying this is a knock against Pereira by any means. This is a massive, massive compliment to him. He's such an intelligent striker that he doesn't go in there knowing, hey, I have 4-ounce gloves, if I just swing hard enough, if I hit them, they're gonna fall. He's much more intelligent than just a power heavy striker, whereas Bruno Silva, he is a good boxer, but he can be gloated into a brawl sometimes, and you do see him. He just sees red either when he gets hit by a big shot or when he hurts his opponent with a big shot, and that can be great. Like, you don't have as many finishes as he has and not be a great finisher, but he does leave himself open sometimes when he does go for those big finishes, and against guys like Jordan Wright, yes, you can get over aggressive and really go for that finish, but against someone like Alex Pereira, who's so good at moving on the feet, in the middle of the cage, even up against the cage, it's going to be really curious to see, where does Bruno Silva feel comfortable throwing strikes with Alex Pereira? Do you think it's going to be in the middle of the cage, or do you think we're actually going to see some clinch work out of Bruno Silva to get the fight close, maybe get Pereira up against the cage to then use some of those boxing combos?
From seeing Bruno Silva on Instagram, again, depends on how much stock you put into it, but he's always training his boxing. Always. At Evolução Thai MMA down in Brazil. So I would expect to beat Alex Pereira. You look at his record, and obviously his one loss in MMA is by submission years ago, and it is what it is, but he's going to have that. That's the spot of his game that a lot of people are going to try and exploit. Now, you like to see the fact that Pereira's aligned himself with Teixeira MMA and Fitness in Connecticut. I wonder, the population of Brazilians that have moved to Connecticut in not even the last 10 years, but like the last 5 years. And now you get a 42-year-old champion up a weight class in Glover Teixeira. Like, it's just crazy to see the amount of people that have started to go through that gym lately, and you like to see it for Glover. You feel good for him.
100%. Like, Glover, I can't not smile when I look at Glover Teixeira. He's in his 40s, living his best life, a UFC champion after everybody wrote him off. Now he has, let's be honest, like a fairly successful gym kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's just nice to see the overall career progression of Glover. But I agree with you. Having a guy like that training with you all the time, when your one weakness in your game is the takedown defense and the overall grappling, I don't know if you know this, Craig, Glover Teixeira is a pretty darn good grappler, so if you do train with him every day, it's going to help you upgrade that part of your game really fast.
But no, I would expect the man himself, Bruno Silva, to go out there to try and at least take the fight to the mat or make it ugly up against the cage in the clinch. Now, the opposite can be said, like when Jordan Wright was taking on Bruno Silva, he was the one that actually initiated the clinch, and then he was the one that on his way back, he likes to leave his head nice and high and got hit by a couple hooks, rocked all the way back, the fight's over. But I look at it again, for Pereira, 33-7 in kickboxing, 21 knockouts. We talk about the title, so on and so forth. The odds for this one, Pereira opened around a -170, still about there. For Bruno Silva, +145. We have a look at the Topology votes. Surprise to us, they are to you. I'm going to say 75% over-under for Pereira in this one.
I would say over.
Ooh, it's close. 594 total votes, 74% Pereira, 84% by knockout. For the 26% that have Silva, 74% by knockout. I think we're going to get a knockout in this one as well. Bruno Silva could submit him, so I guess I'm a little bit surprised that there aren't more there. Now I know Bruno Silva, you look at his record, not a lot of submissions there, but he definitely has the better ground game out of these two guys.
It is hard to expect a guy, though, at 32 years of age who's never really gone for a lot of submissions in his career to all of a sudden turn that on.
That's it, and I look at this one, Alex Pereira, he's 4-1 in MMA, he's 34, but the miles are there from kickboxing. He has 4 inches of height. He has 6 inches of reach against Silva. Like, it's just crazy to see that in a fight like this. And Bruno Silva's a guy that marches forward into damage. Alex Pereira is one of the most dynamic strikers you're going to find out there from either side. It sucks, because Bruno Silva's a guy that I championed at M1 to come into the UFC. I've got Alex Pereira in this fight.
I'm going to try to say this in the nicest way possible. This is the easiest fight for Alex Pereira in the UFC, who's still a tough opponent for him. Because Bruno Silva stylistically does everything Alex Pereira does. There's not that much that he does that's outside of the skill set of Alex Pereira. Yes, he's the better grappler of the two, but that's only because Pereira, up until like 6 months ago, probably never really cared about grappling because he was just a pure kickboxer for the most part. So I don't think that Silva's going to all of a sudden come in and start wrestling a lot. I don't expect us to see the grappling side of his game. And here's the other thing. Silva's not much of a kicker. He really does need to get into boxing range. Alex Pereira can strike moving forwards, moving backwards, and is a kick-heavy fighter. I really do think he's going to march through Bruno Silva.
Big-time opportunity for both of these guys at middleweight. I know I'm going to be sitting back regardless of odds or anything with pop and maybe beer, popcorn. Like, it's going to be an event. I'm going to have everybody over my giant jug of water. It's going to be a spectacle to behold. I'm fired the F up for this fight. Alex Pereira taking on Bruno Silva. You let us know down below in the comments section who you have in this all-important fight in the middleweight division. It's a big-time one and a big-time main card to boot. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.